The fact that Kane was erased before a single abstraction had taken place was crazy. Pomni called out Kane, Jack's nearly abstracting again after the previous 2 episodes. Kinger telling the truth, Red is blatantly presented, and when I say blatantly, I mean that. That's why it's part of the thumbnail. The red was present throughout the episode because we should have known chaos was about to ensue. Hello my ninjas, welcome back. In today's video, I shall review the latest episode that made into the circus. Chaos! Yeah, I know, it's just letter spam, but I like to think of this episode more as pure chaos. In this review, we'll talk about the specific sections I'll want to talk about, and then slightly dive deep into the more implications that could be revealed for the grand finale episode. That'll be released in June. More will be talked about this episode, do not worry, but for now, let's just jump straight in. To begin, let's talk about the beginning of the episode, the creation of Kane. In the beginning, you can see the eyes of blue and red. We begin with the red eyes, seeing 3 phases of images being sent into the eyes, into these gloops basically, kind of being sent as a program type thing, the coding, etc. The first set of images we see are presents, what looks to be a merry-go-round, but I could also see if it's just a nice place to eat, a pumpkin picking patch with a noticeable moon in the background, a hot air balloon, an inflatable slide, and a carnival roof. I do want to know I may get these names wrong, and if I do, I apologize. I'm making this video right after the video was released, so my apologies. I also want to note real quick, some of the still shots might have the press escape one to escape thing. Listen, alright, I hate snipping tools sometimes. Anyways, the second set of photos had gummy worms, inflatable dinosaurs, a delicious Big Mac, even though I never had one in my life, a beautiful view of the outdoors, Max, a diner, flowers, a clown, and a pool inflatable crocodile. These sets of photos relate to the gimmicks and appearance of the characters inside the digital circus. The purple dinosaur was the inflatable dinosaur, the mask was the gimmick for Gangle, and the blue inflatable crocodile was Ribbit. Yes, I know, she is a frog, but you get the connection. Pool, frog, green. The third set of photos was the office, CNA's company location. Chairs, desks, computers, you name it. That's why Kane's been obsessed with these photos. He never got more information about them, so he wanted to know more. And not to mention, that is how he was built, through the computers and the console. The blue eye appears and gets inserted information as we then cut to the red eye escaping the walls and consuming the blue eye as it transforms together and it creates the circus. As you can see with the icons the red yellow, it starts to form together with these legs that create the specific circus boundaries. Now, let me remind you that the color red is apparent throughout this episode. To remind you what the symbolism of red is, red has a lot of meanings when used in shows, movies, and books. But in this case, it's the sense of risk-taking and danger. To further explain this, let's take it back to the previous episode real quick, where blue and red was apparent. Jax hits the red button, giving that risk factor and danger because they did not know what button was the correct one to pick. And Jax, being mind-controlled, picked red out of fear of his real-life struggles. Remember, blue is peace, so think of it as a peace and war. The yin, the yang. One is heaven, one is hell. This will get brought up many times throughout this review, so just take that in mind. Returning to the episode, we notice Kane are looking at 5 characters, while a dog is talking to Kane. We later find out that the dog is Scratch, who is the first abstraction. Scratch is somebody who had a much smarter mind than anybody else. People will not understand his critical thinking. Jumping ahead a bit, we learn that Scratch had a tumor in his head that caused him to make this specific world, to enter this digital world. Maybe he was the reason he created this world, to ensure he would be alive forever. That is basically all the info we got of him so far, so let's rewind back to where we were previously. We see the first ever appearance of Queenie, who, putting the pieces together, is Kinger's in real life wife. They are real life married, and Kinger was the one who pulled his wife into this mess. After this flashback, we see the last of the original 5 to be sent to the cellar. Plus, Queenie, of course. And Kinger, here, felt alone. He didn't have anyone left. He felt as if his machine, his work, all of this was a failure. And just when he was about to lose it, and out comes Ragatha, which proved to Kane and Kinger that this system does indeed work. Which, trapping innocent humans for your own good is rather an interesting way, but hey, here we are. After that flashback, we notice the gang sitting on some couches. Red, blue, green, and purple. And when the crew calls out Kane wanting questions, no one is sitting on the blue couch. 3 of them are sitting on the red couch. further showing the foreshadowing hint drops that danger is vastly approaching. Before we go over the song, which needs a paragraph on its own, I want to briefly talk about Kane and Bubble's chat. It's rather odd to see Bubble be this aggressive towards Kane. He's usually unserious, and to see these words come out of Bubble's mouth makes me think that Bubble is able. Now hang on, let me explain. It makes sense because Bubble's trying to control him, trying to make him feel more aggressive, trying to make him lose his control. But when he isn't controlling everyone, Bubble has an advantage here, right? Because that's what Bubble is doing. He's trying to manipulate him, he's trying to persuade him. But when Kane's controlling everyone, Bubble doesn't act serious because he knows he will fail. It's just something to note. Listen, I know y'all gonna hate me. I know you will hate me. And people will talk about it for this entire video since it's going to be here forever. But this song would have been so much better if this was released before Hazbin Hotel Season 2. Kane's song in this episode was quite literally just Vox DEI, but in Kane's perspective. I know, you're all going to hate me. But listen to them next to each other and it's literally the same thing. It's kind of like a wombo combo of Vox DEI, Vox Populi, and once we get up there, you know, because the piano, and then him telling him that he's in control, and then making them do whatever the heck he wants to do, you know. That's what I was kind of saying with that. He did it to remind them who's in charge and who has all the power, because it's Kane, alright. But Tails isn't different. No! Even if it's different scenarios, it's still the same thing. Overall though, I do enjoy the first bit of it. The musical, jazz, toe-tapping section was fun. But other than that, I'm just watching Vox go crazy on the mic. But another indie show. The next part I want to go over is Pomni and the exit door. So was the exit door truly an abstraction? Was Pomni's view of the exit door leading her to abstraction? Because I always wondered that in the pilot, like, why could she see a door and not abstract? I get that she was getting closer and closer and all, but it just led her to the void and we didn't see the next stage of abstraction besides Jack. And we don't see it in Pomni's perspective because the dream thing was in episode 2 and that thing was just full one arm and she fell into the cellar. So it doesn't really count. I guess Pomni can just imagine things and allow it because she did close her eyes and then she opened it and then boom, the exit door is right there. But then again, she touched her freaking bottom of the eye like how she did in the pilot and then poof, the exit door open. I'm a bit confused with this section, but whatever, you know, further on down the line I'm going to make a Pomni development video, so I'll be able to further explore this development towards it, so don't worry about that. To be fair though, the Digital Circus is a bit buggy. So, let's take that into account. Pomni grabs the console and hands it to Kinger while the crew distracts Kane, which he then realizes that all the fun is not meeting his standards, until he realizes that Kinger's missing and oh boy, here comes the crazy stuff. Pomni yells out of nowhere, "We think your ideas suck!" Which makes everyone go into complete and utter shock mode. Nobody expected her to just shout it like that. But because of her confidence, everyone chimes in. I'll just let the crew vent their emotions.
Yes, it is! You're a horrible host! You don't care about us at all! You care more about stroking your own ego than giving us anything we'd actually enjoy!
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, you're a failure! We're all gonna abstract someday, and what will you have then? Nothing.
Stop that.
And this whole stunt? Just torturing us because we hurt your feelings? Pathetic! You're like a child! What kind of all-powerful being has such a fragile ego?
You never let us feel like we're at home. You don't comfort anyone when they're upset, and you never bother to understand what it's like in our shoes.
You discourage us from thinking outside the box and doing things our own way.
You lie to us constantly!
And on top of it all, you just don't listen!
After this, Kane goes literally insane, saying how nobody ever cares about him, and what sacrifice he had to do, for them specifically. And now, they're about to be tortured in the way that he felt. And we're going to talk about it in the order that is shown, beginning with Pomni, who obviously was Gummy because of how much he meant to her, from episode 2, Katie Carrier Chaos, and then saying the hello interaction, Fast Food Masquerade, because of the reuse of NPCs. Ragatha, with her mother berating her, hitting her, making her feel unwanted. Although the dolls make no sense. Why wouldn't it just be horses or something that she dislikes? She never mentioned that she dislikes dolls at all. So why is it that specifically? Heading next would be Gangle, having all these personalities under one mask, not being able to ever share an emotion besides two, which is the happy mask and the sad mask. Zooble, not ever being perfect and not being able to find her true self, with all these pieces around her suffocating because she can't find her perfect self. And lastly, Jax, feeling depressed and a sense of regret, with Pomni, Ribbit, and Cosmo doing what? Yeah, that was some wild stuff, bro. How did that get through production? I would love to know. Gooseworks, how did you allow that? Because what the hell? I was not expecting that. Yeah, some pretty wild stuff just happened in the past minute of that episode, but now let's clean up with Kinger. What was Kinger doing while this torture was happening? On the console, we can see the creation of the AI Kane. October 30th, 1996. Login shows it's Kinger, and the password is Queenie, showing how much he cared for her. It was all his work. Jumping to the second still frame, we have some more info. Kane joined the Circus on October 15th, 1996, which, I'm unsure how you can create the AI 15 days in advance and then have a system start 15 days before. But let's not forget, this is AI, first things first, and secondly, this is a computer, so to be fair, there's dates that are going to be wrong regardless. So take that for what it's worth. Let's just assume that the real-life Kane was probably born that day, and then the creation of the AI probably was, in the system, was born that day. Alright, 3 years later, the exact same day, exact same year of Kane joined the Circus, Scratch joined. And then 9 years later, we can see Ragatha, which means that these three are the only ones that are shown as of like the console stuff specifically. So something must have happened with the programming or something that just didn't mention about Cosmo, Ribbit, freaking Pomni, Jax, etc. Something must have happened, but we don't know what the hell happened, okay? But the fact that we finally have information of when they joined, it's pretty good to know, because you don't actually know when they joined, and we only know like year-to-date stuff. Like, we know obviously like Jax and Zooble were like the youngest, Pomni's 25. Like, we know small bits here and there. We know that Ragatha joined right after Queenie abstracted, but we don't know that much about the year-to-date stuff, when they joined, when the system started. So having this is actually really helpful, and I appreciate this for the second last episode, because, like I said, danger happened later on. In the third still frame, we have what looks to be Kinger's real name, G-blank-A-N blank. I assume they are an I, so Gianni? I could be wrong, don't take that for granted, please. We can see here Kinger's deep into Kane's code, and it looks like he's actually leading himself into deleting Kane, erasing him altogether. As Kane tries to distract Kinger, he moves his right hand over and presses down on the enter button. And Kane is now deleted. And now that he's gone, everything is going to slowly disappear forever. And that includes our Digital Circus crew, because remember, everything was built with Kane. That's why you start to see it become dark gray and purple, because everything was built around Kane. He was the foundation of the project. That's why Kinger made it. That's why Kinger made this entire thing, because of him. Because if Kane's gone, now everything else is gone. And now, yes, you are correct, the episode does end here, but let's briefly talk about what may happen in episode 9. First things first, the whole crew's now escaped. Alright, someone's either going to betray someone, or have to do the good deed and stay back for the greater good. Now, who could it be? Well, for me, it comes down to two sensible options, and the only two sensible options. Kinger and Jax. Kinger makes sense. He was one who made this. It would make sense if he falls down with a ship. That's obvious. And not to mention, he was one who deleted Kane whenever he should have not done that in the first place. So it makes sense if he did the good deed and stayed back behind, so that the other group can escape, because it was his fault in the first place that he got there. But Jax is the interesting one. Alright, let me cook. Jax is the reason Ribbit and Cosmo abstracted. That's why he doesn't want to get close to anyone. To share real emotion, because he doesn't want that to happen to anyone else. And he has regret with that. And the only possible way to relive that regret, or to remove it, is to do a deed so good, it lifts that burden off its shoulders. And if it's staying back to allow the others to escape, I believe he will. Those are the only two that make the most logical sense. Ragatha has nothing she needs to complete her story. Zooble has nothing. Gangle has nothing. And Pomni? I mean, maybe, but it wouldn't make sense for her because she's the latest to enter and the last now. So it wouldn't make sense in any scenario for her to do it. maybe sacrifice himself for Ragatha, Jax, and Kinger, but even then, Jax and Kinger would do it beforehand. For now, my prediction is either, or both, Jax and Kinger will not escape. And let me know, guys, in the comments if you guys agree, disagree, or you guys might have one of the other four not make it out alive. And let me hear your reasoning in the comments below. Through thick and thin, we survived, ladies and gentlemen. The twists, the turns throughout this episode truly made this a wonderful episode, and I cannot wait to see how this unfolds, the finale for the series. Score is 9 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know there were some points that did not go for a ton. I understand that. I just went over the stuff I wanted to talk about. And if there were things I did not mention, it will get mentioned in the coming months because your boy expected the last episode to be released in October. Because my assumption was that they did it with a 2-episode cycle, and after 2-episode cycle, they would need 6 full months to make the next 2 episodes. And also, not to mention, it would create the full 3-year cycle. But nah. Instead, it comes out on June freaking 19th. Same day as Toy Story 5, by the way, fun fact. And since it is coming out in 3 months' time, I am now needing to lightning bolt my development videos before the final episode. Originally, I was planning on to do once a month for the lead up, but now you're getting 2 a month. Yeah, that's right. Starting in April, the 1st and the 3rd Friday of each month for April and May, you'll be getting a development deep dive video on a character from this wonderful series. So here are the dates and the characters. April 3rd, we'll start things off with Ragatha, my second favorite character. April 17th, you'll get Gangle. Yes, the long-awaited Gangle and Zooble development video will finally happen. Do not worry, everyone. May the 1st will be Jax. May 15th will be Zooble. And then May 29th, because yes, there's 5 Fridays in May, will be Pomni. And lastly, my favorite character, Kinger, will get his on June the 5th. Don't worry, I'll still have my character deep dives to the movies in April and May. I won't tell you what they are, so stay tuned. And as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share the video to your friends, and subscribe to me to my videos. Hit the little bell so you can know if when I go live and upload. All credit goes to Circus Productions and Gooseworks for making this wonderful series that I deeply loved for this entire 3 years. Credit will be in the end credits screen and at the top of the description. Thank you again for watching. This Ninja Joe signing out. Peace!